Describe corruption as a cancer in Rhode Island on your website. The Ethics Commission was dealt a major blow by the state's high court in being able to police the General Assembly. First, did you agree with that decision, the high court's decision? And second, would you support legislation that would specifically allow the Ethics Commission to target legislators?
I did not agree with the Supreme Court's ruling, and I do believe that we need to have the legislature act on it, and we may well need another constitutional convention in order to address the issue.
You referenced Tim White's story on fraud, investigators who now are under investigation for fraud.
Yes.
What's your philosophy if a public official or a so-called public servant is found guilty of crime? Should they have a higher penalty or the same penalty as someone who's a private citizen who perpetrates a similar crime?
I think they should have a higher penalty. They're essentially betraying the public trust. They're using their official position, whether they're a high elected official or they're someone who's employed at a state agency or a municipal agency. They're betraying the public trust. They're using that official position to in fact benefit themselves, line their own pockets or those of their neighbors. They should in fact face a higher penalty. And in the federal system, under the U.S. sentencing guidelines, there are in fact provisions in which enhance people's category and how long they serve based upon the position that they held.
Operation Dollar Bill, the probe of legislative influence peddling became, in the view of some, Operation Nickel and Dime. Former U.S. Attorney Robert Corrente told us on this program that his prosecutors went where the evidence led them. But is there more that could have been done to bring more cases in that probe?
Obviously, I wasn't in the U.S. Attorney's Office at the time. I don't have access to all of the evidence and all of the interviews and those kinds of things to make that statement. What I will say is this. The Attorney General in the state of Rhode Island can no longer abdicate his responsibility to the U.S. Attorney for public corruption cases. The Attorney General's office and the Attorney General himself is responsible for protecting the people of Rhode Island. The people of Rhode Island are the victims of public corruption cases, and therefore the Attorney General should be more involved, and it should be a top priority, and it will be when I'm the Attorney General.
So Mr. Lynch, in your view, has abdicated?
If you look at the major public corruption cases, yes.
But wait a minute, a lot of these cases start on the state level, and they are handed over to the federal government. You attending those press conferences with Bob Corrente, you have the state police standing right next to him. So is that really that fair of an assessment? Often they pursue the federal guidelines because, quite frankly, they're stricter.
Brings up two important issues. First of all, to what degree and why are the state police going to the U.S. Attorney's Office? That's
not what I said. The Attorney General's office will work hand in hand often with the U.S. Attorney's Office because prosecution can be tougher on the federal side. So is that a fair assessment when you say he's abdicated?
I don't have a problem with working with the attorney. I don't have a problem with the Attorney General's office working with the federal authorities because I think that's important. I mean, there are areas of law that are different between the state and the federal government, and you need to. My concern is that the Attorney General, even in these kinds of cases, how many cases have we seen in recent history involving this kind of corruption like you brought out in your investigation? We don't see a lot of that. And why? Because it's not a top priority. And I think it's not a top priority because we don't have the resources in the Attorney General's office as he has dedicated them to get people to, in fact, seek out that office as a place where they can call and be confident when they stick out their neck that someone's going to follow up on it and follow it no matter where it goes and no matter to whom that investigation leads. And I will do that.
And stronger state laws on corruption.
We've got to have them. As Attorney General, when I'm elected, I will in fact take a look at all of the laws that involve public corruption and put forth a legislative proposal and get support for that. And if I have to, go to the people to muster that support, because obviously we've got to motivate our legislators to act towards that direction.
How much money do you feel you have to raise in order to win the Attorney General's race?
Looking at it, if it's going to be with public matching funds, I need to raise about $250,000 myself. It's probably a $500,000 race.
And do you anticipate, or have you had any difficulty raising money as a Republican in the state of Rhode Island?
Yeah, it's always, I think raising money is a challenge, especially in this economy, no matter what. Republicans always have a bit of an uphill battle. You don't have the kind of built-in fundraising structures like large union support. So at this point, you know, it's an uphill battle. I've just really started, and I'm very excited. We have a website, ericforag.com. We're hoping to get contributions through that. And these are the contributions that you want. Small ones, you know, people who see what you are articulating, they're inspired, and they want to get behind you for what you're going to do.
Erik, you're a new face on the political scene, so tell us, why are you running for Attorney General?
I'm running for Attorney General because I want to crack down on public corruption, which I believe plagues this state. I want to protect our communities from sex offenders and child predators that lurk in the alleyways as well as online. And I want to go after the gang violence, which has spread a wave of terrorism across our urban cities and now pose a danger to the outlying communities.
We have 30 seconds left. How would you handicap Governor Kachiri's performance over the past 7 years?
I think Governor Kachiri has had an uphill battle. Certainly, as Speaker Watson suggested, I'm sorry, not Speaker Watson.
Speaker now.
Speaker now. As Minority Leader Watson pointed out, the governor has been battling a overwhelmingly Democratic legislature.
We are out of time. Erik Wallen, thanks so much for joining us on Newsmakers. For Ian Donnis and Arlene Violet, I'm Tim White. We'll see you next week.